Good morning. Please welcome CEO and co-founder Postman, Abhinav Asthana.
Hey everyone, welcome to PostCon 2025. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're tuning in from across the world or you're in the room with us today. We have an exciting day ahead for you. It's been a wild ride since the last PostCon in April 2024. Back then, we were deep in the generative AI tsunami. We had ChatGPT leading the charge, and then boom, we had Claude, Llama, AWS, Gemini, Cohere. The list kept growing, and everyone was racing to catch OpenAI. But today, the foundation models are starting to feel pretty interchangeable. The real action now isn't in the models, it's in how we use them. And the most exciting development we have seen is the rise of AI agents. These are intelligent apps that don't just talk. They see, they think, and they do. Let's look at some examples of agents that we use at Postman today. We have a customer context agent. This agent gathers information about the user's account. It summarizes information and links to help with faster ticket resolution for our support teams. We have a sales account research agent, and this agent does an internal deep research for a customer to brief our sales teams for an outreach call. We have a CISO dashboard agent. This agent provides insights into security KPIs that help us drive CISO conversations with our customers. And we have a procurement agent. And this agent is designed to automate and streamline the monitoring of software licenses and vendor approvals. It operates autonomously and does not require any manual interaction. As you can see, these agents can't do anything useful in isolation. They need context, they need data and access. And to get that, they call APIs, which means your APIs are no longer just integration endpoints. They are the execution layer of AI. And as I was preparing for this keynote, we realized that building for this AI landscape is like being in a video game that you have to play on expert mode. And well, someone skipped the tutorial, handed your developers the controller, and said, "See you in production." And trust me, I know video games. I maybe spend a bit too much time on them, and I thought as a developer, I would get carpal tunnel with all the coding I did. But instead, I got a gamer's thumb gaming a bit too much on my new Steam Deck last summer. Not an endorsement, love the product, did a bit too much. So I want you to imagine that building for this new AI reality is like battling multiple bosses. Each boss represents a real-world API challenge, and each level of the game maps to a stage in your API journey. Let's see what these bosses are. So the first boss you have to beat is what we call the disconnected stack. The second boss you have to beat is the invisible API. And the third and last boss you have to beat is the inconsistent system. We're going to see all of them in this talk. Building software in the world today is still hard. But here's the good news. You already have what you need. You've got APIs, you've got developers, and now you've got AI. What you need is a co-op partner to put it all together. One who hands you the right gear as these missions get together, and that's where Postman comes in. Today, over 40 million developers across 500,000 organizations use Postman. That includes 98% of the Fortune 500. And we have been believers in API first since day one. And now we are helping organizations power intelligent systems across tools, teams, and agents. So we walked through the levels, and you have known about the bosses. We'll show you how you can beat them. In level 1, you'll build, test, and deploy APIs faster, which means fewer handoffs, faster collaboration, and better alignment. In level 2, you'll distribute your APIs like products, so they're discoverable, adopted, and ready for change. In level 3, you'll connect APIs into intelligent systems, built for humans and ready for agents. So now let's level up. To walk you through how Postman helps developers go from first request to fully orchestrated systems, I'd like to welcome our head of marketing, Justine.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you again if you were here last night. And thank you, Abhinav. I'm going to start out with a show of hands. Are there any gamers out there? Not that I could see you. Oh, there we go. They gave me lights. Nice. Me too. So I'm actually about to talk to you about the first level of this game. We call it the fragmented workflow. For way too long, developers have been stuck in clunky, disconnected workflows that make zero sense for how you actually want to build an API. There, I said it. You've lived the pain of manual syncs, broken exports, copy-pasting specs like it's 2006. And at the end of all that, you're left with two pretty terrible options. Slow everything down to make governance happy, or YOLO, and spend the rest of the sprint answering, is this the latest version? And why doesn't the doc match what's live? So let's bring this to life. Let's say you're spinning up a new payments API for an app that lets you send a drink to a friend. And I'm going to get really creative here. We're going to call this app Cheers Friend. Your API needs to browse the drink menu. It needs to charge the credit card. It needs to send the drink. And it needs to log it in the user's history. Cool. So that's the part that your product manager gets. But what they don't see is the third-party gateway that goes down every third Thursday, the edge cases, the refund logic, the audit trail. Basically, all the stuff that turns this simple API into a mini boss fight. Bosses as in gaming, not your actual boss. Just needed to clarify. And of course, they're like, that should take what? Like a couple hours? So this brings us to our first mission, design, prototype, iterate, where your objective is to turn the idea into a working API that others can build against fast. And to complete this mission, you're going to need some help. You're going to need a starter pack that we call collections to start building and designing the APIs. Collections are very powerful. They're structured. They're shareable. They're executable API workflows all in one place. But don't think of them as just a folder of API requests. A collection lets you design by doing. You sketch the shape of your API as you go. Create requests, add test scripts, wire in examples, mock endpoints, and document at the same time in the same place. So collections are your go-to when you're prototyping before the backend or idea fully exists. You want to mock endpoints so your front-end team doesn't say, cool data, or cool design, where's the data? You need to test behavior before the code ever shows up. Or you just want to send a working example to a teammate without writing a novel in Slack. Basically, collections help you get your first build off the ground without waiting. Just go. So let's go back to that payments API for Cheers Friend. You're not just slapping a drink response into a doc and calling it a day. You've got a successful send with a payment confirmation, a failed payment attempt, because of course that happens, a refunded drink, because someone sent 6 mojitos to the wrong Jessica again, and a full send history with timestamps and metadata, because you know somebody's going to ask for that later. Then you hook it all up to a mock server. So it's not just documented, it's executable. Testers can validate behavior, consumers can integrate on day one, and no one has to slack you with, hey, do you have an example response I can borrow? You just saved future you a bunch of headaches. And now Postman's API client supports NPM and JSR packages. So you can use all your favorite libraries for things like validation, formatting, encryption, data generation without leaving Postman. It's like getting a new iPhone, logging in, all your apps are already there and set up and logged in for you. That's an important part. No setup drama. Just straight to work with the tools you already trust. And we're going to take that even further with our VS Code extension. So you don't have to Alt-Tab between Postman and your favorite editor either. With this extension, you can skip manually recreating variables. Just import your files and get on with your life. And you can keep scripts and tests in a central location so they can be reused by you or your team. So once your prototype's working, it's time for your next mission: build, test, deploy. As you move from prototyping to production, you need a seamless handoff between your spec and your Git source control. So you might be noticing a theme here. We want you to stop Alt-tabbing your keyboard to death. So yes, we are bringing GitHub to Postman too. With our new GitHub integration, you get the full power of Git. I'm talking branching, reviews, histories, rollbacks. Every change to a collection, to an environment, is tracked just like code. This keeps your collections, tests, and docs in sync with your code automatically. And it's all accessible within GitHub and within Postman. Yay, people are clapping. It's okay, you can get excited. Okay, you're about to get more excited because I'm going to show you what else it can do. It's really cool. So when someone opens a pull request in GitHub, it now syncs directly in your Postman collection. You get visual diffs right inside Postman, which means no more scrolling through 90 lines of JSON asking, wait, is that a comma or a breaking change? API developers can build against real requests and responses. QA doesn't have to wait for staging to ask, is the spec updated yet? They can write tests using mocks that reflect the latest changes with no guessing and no delays. And your consumers can start integrating without sending that quick question that ends up being 6 paragraphs in Slack. It's like putting your whole API team into the same room without needing a meeting, without confusion, and without blockers. I can't wait to see what productivity this brings you. The sync works both ways. So when a collection is updated in Postman, it can push changes back to GitHub, so your repo always reflects the latest version. But even more powerful, when updates happen in GitHub, Postman stays in sync and can trigger your CI/CD workflows automatically. That means your tests are always aligned with your code, no last-minute surprises before releases. It keeps your APIs, your pipelines, and your team in lockstep without manual handoffs. It's pretty cool. Now, here's the best Alt-Tab hack I saved for last. Skip Jira entirely. No developer likes switching over to Jira to file a ticket. So no. When something breaks or changes, you can create a Jira issue right from within Postman from the request. That context is auto-filled in the Jira ticket, and you can track it all in Postman too, so you don't have to leave it to see what the status is. And all of that assumes one thing. It's pretty important, that people can actually understand your API. Because once it goes live, it actually doesn't belong to you anymore. Other teams start to use it. Downstream systems depend on it. And that's where the real complexity starts to creep in. Every small spec kicks off a chain reaction, manually updating collections, docs, tests, and mocks. And when you're working across teams, time zones, and tools, keeping everybody on the same page is a version control nightmare. And trust me, I think this is version 37 of this keynote. I know version control nightmares. That's the moment you realize what got you started, designing by doing, is no longer enough. Now you don't just need speed. You need structure, you need alignment, and a source of truth that works at scale. And that's exactly what we're solving next. This is when you need Postman's new design tool. We call it SpecHub. It's a developer-first workspace for writing and managing Open API 3.0 and Async API 2.0 at scale. With SpecHub, you can actually enjoy writing specs. I know, it's a wild concept. You get a clean visual outline, so you don't get lost in a sea of endpoints. Autocomplete, linting, and validation, whether you're Team JSON or Team YAML. Live previews of your docs as you write. And when you build in SpecHub, Postman automatically creates a collection. I might have made that word up, but it fits. Update the spec, and with one click, boom, your tests, mocks, and docs all stay in sync. And when you make a change, it's versioned cleanly across the spec and the collection, like a responsible adult should do. It's a small thing that adds up, with better structure, clear intent, and fewer errors. And none of this feels bolted on. When we say developer first, we mean it. This isn't governance as a speed bump. This is governance built in. So you can work fast without creating downstream chaos. So here's how you know what to use and when. Use collections when you're moving fast. You're designing by doing, sketching ideas, mocking fast, testing early, sharing live examples. And when that starts to not be enough, you use SpecHub when your API shifts from exploration to scale. This means you have long-lived APIs, shared services, maybe regulated environments. And with Postman, you don't have to choose. You don't have to pick a side. Start fast with collections, scale cleanly with SpecHub. And sync changes in either direction, so your source of truth works the way that you do. So now, your API is designed collaboratively, built with clearer expectations, tested before code ever ships, and deployed with confidence. You've stabilized the chaos and completed level 1 of this game. But sorry, we're not done. Suddenly, your problem isn't alignment, it's discoverability. So now it's time to shift from alignment to adoption. And let's talk about level 2, the distribution disconnect. Abhinav introduced this boss earlier, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. And it kind of freaks me out. It looks like the Saruman from Lord of the Rings. So even the best designed API will not make an impact if you are the only one who knows it exists. This is the hidden boss, the invisible API. It lives in outdated wikis, buried docs, and maybe on somebody's laptop saved as final v3, I swear this is it. It happens when APIs are built quickly and not built with sharing in mind. They're not easy to find, understand, or use. And every API has at least 4 groups who are going to rely on it, depending on what you're building. So the first is your internal team. Your product managers, your QA engineers, maybe your other developers at your company. They're the ones in the Slack asking, hey, do you have that endpoint handy? Then there's your external partners. That's your second one. The third consumer is the broader developer community. And the fourth is AI agents. This one doesn't ask questions. When things go wrong, they just stop. Workflow breaks. And what all those groups have in common is the need for APIs that are usable, discoverable, and up to date. They want to know what's live, what's deprecated, and what's safe to build on. Postman gives you that single source of truth for partner, private, and public APIs. That's organized, searchable, and kept in sync. So let's talk about that first API consumer, the people that you work with inside your company. And please, I say this with love, do not take every engineer in your company and put them in one massive workspace and hope for the best. Hopefully that's why you're here today, is to learn a better way. Instead, let teams work in their own spaces, and then when they're ready, have them share it with the organization. Previously, Postman was scoped to individual teams, which admittedly became pretty problematic when you're in a large organization. Break that down to, you could have thousands of different teams, each with their own workspaces, their own rules, access rules, and no easy way to tell if they're all from the same company or not. So today, we're fixing that with what we call organizations, and they're available in a private beta coming soon. So to bring this to life, if you think about that app we are building, Cheers Friend, let's think about that as the umbrella organization. That's the company, right? You could have thousands of teams underneath there, under that org, and give them shared search, workspace visibility, user management, and access control. It's like realizing all apartment units are actually in the same building with one directory, one elevator, no more knocking on the wrong door. Organizations give platform teams visibility, developers clarity, and companies the ability to manage thousands of APIs at scale without losing their docs or their minds. So now that your org is finally unified, the next step is deciding what to share across teams. And that's where the private API network comes in. Teams can take the APIs that they actually want others to use, like the really well-documented, stable, we promise this one works APIs, promote them to the private API network, which is your internal catalog of quality APIs. When you do that, there's less duplication, less people who are trying to build the same thing, more reuse, and fewer moments where someone says, wait, didn't we already build this? So now your best APIs are published, organized, and easy to find. So that solves discoverability, but this level is a little bit harder. It doesn't solve change management, because even with the best documentation, the real pain comes when somebody makes a change and nobody tells you. I guarantee you everybody in this room has experienced that in some way or form. It's like updating the fire escape plan, throwing it in a drawer, not telling anyone, and then, sure, it's documented, but when a fire breaks out, God, you want to know where those instructions are. With Postman Slack and Microsoft Teams apps, your team gets real-time updates on workspace, collection, and request activity right where you hang out and chat. You can comment, share context, grant access, even fork a collection without switching tabs or breaking your flow. It's like having API updates show up where your team actually lives, so no one's left guessing, and everyone stays in sync without that moment of, wait, who touched this? So you've just seen how Postman is going to where you work across GitHub, Jira, VS Code, chat apps, and more, so you can kill alt-tabbing chaos, and we're just getting started. And I'm really excited about this one. So today we're announcing a preview of the Postman ecosystem, which is a new way to build, customize, and share tools that shape how your team works with their workflow. So you'll be able to access apps and trigger actions directly inside Postman to bring that context closer to where you are. Reduce friction and move work forward. So I'm going to tell you where we're getting started. We'll have support for API gateways to help developers onboard faster and troubleshoot issues. API security tools to identify risks and improve reliability. SDKs, of course. And documentation, no matter what docs you use, to drive adoption and simplify onboarding. And I want to take a moment to recognize the ecosystem partners in this room who are working to bring these workflows to life. Thank you so much. We're building this together. And between our partners and the developers, we really want to hear from you. From your IDE to your CI/CD pipeline, from monitoring tools to security scanners, Postman should be there. We should make this as easy as possible for you, so give us all the feedback. The PM is Bryant Lee. He's ready. So when you do all this, Postman makes APIs not just accessible, but embraced by the whole software team. So now let's talk about those partners, the teams that you work with side by side. They're the second consumer of your APIs. So if that Cheers Friend app, if that API integrates maybe with a partner's flower system so that you could surprise somebody not just with champagne, but a bouquet of flowers. You're not just building. You're working with another team and another system with their own tools and processes. So to make that easier, with partner workspaces, you can build, test, and debug together live. Here's what that looks like. If you're both on Postman, you just spin up a shared workspace, and your partners get access to the latest collections, tests, and docs right next to your team. And today, we're making that even better with a real-time update feed. You also get a centralized partnerships page to manage partners at scale. Because if you think about it, yes, there's one-off partnerships. But what if you're managing a marketplace where you have thousands of partners? You need this. You also need security for them. So SSO and domain capture for secure authentication, streamlined access controls for each partner. And because great APIs do not just power products, they power partnerships. All right, moving on to that third consumer of your APIs, the broader developer community. Postman has the world's largest hub for APIs. The Postman API network is a unified platform that helps API publishers acquire new customers and deepen usage with existing ones. Over 18,000 companies publish over 100,000 APIs here. And I think one of my favorite moments at work was when Dustin, who you're about to see give the live demo, he went to an MCP meetup and he gave the demo, and somebody tweeted out, "Forget MCP, why are you MFers like gatekeeping that Postman has 100,000 APIs on their network?" And he was like, his mind was blown. So I'm not gatekeeping, I'm telling you right now. It's there, go explore it. And as a publisher, when you publish here, your API isn't just out there, it's actually discoverable. Developers can find it, test it, and get it up and running in minutes, not hours. You get real usage and data from real people, real developers who are exploring your APIs, not guessing if anybody's using it. It's how you go from available to adopted. And when you publish your APIs on the network, you also unlock a verified public profile that builds trust. Little blue check. You get better placement in search and trending sections, and real-time engagement metrics, like forks, views, watchers, so you actually know what's landing with developers and you can optimize. APIs are moneymakers. You need this. And don't just take my word for it. There's a lot of people at this conference, a lot of people on the internet who will tell you, here's one example, that team who publish verified APIs with good onboarding content level up 2 to 3 times faster adoption. And we are actually working hard to make that even smoother because we don't think it's enough. We're adding notebooks, so you can combine docs, tutorials, and live API calls all in one place on the network. It's an interactive guide, so devs can not just read about your API, but they can try it as they go. A developer will see exactly what they need: how to authenticate, how to send a transaction, what the live response looks like. It gets them building faster, and it means fewer support tickets, fewer broken integrations, happier developers all around. It's a win-win. And just like with internal teams, public APIs need to tell people about changes as well. So we added activity feeds to the API network. So anytime you release a new version, or add endpoints, or publish a notebook, your watchers get notified. And with the Slack and Teams integrations that we covered earlier, your teams will also get updates on public APIs if you have them set up. No surprises. So your API is out in the world, used by teams, built on by partners, explored by the community. That's how you beat level 2. So now to cover the API Network Awards, monitoring your API, and our AI innovations, which, trust me, you do not want to miss. This demo is jaw-dropping. Abhinav is going to come back on stage to walk you through it.
Well, thank you, Justine. So we've had hundreds of thousands of APIs added to the network this year, and I wanted to recognize this year's Postman API Award winners for exceptional quality, innovation, and developer experience across 4 categories. First, we'll start with the best APIs on the network. Can we have a huge round of applause for the winners? Some of them are here in the audience today, so you know where they are. We have the top new APIs on the network. We have Postman champions. A round of applause for them as well. And the Developer's Choice Awards. These teams are setting the bar for what great looks like. To get on next year's leaderboard, build something great, share it on the network, and help devs hit 200 OK fast. Now it's time for the final level, the orchestration crisis. And in this level, you'll learn how to beat the inconsistent system. And this is where it all converges. You've got hundreds of APIs and services, all built with different use cases and technology stacks. And you have to plug them all into a system where your AI agents expect context and consistency. If your API description is off, or a tool call is misaligned, it's game over. Your agents stall, and the workflow breaks. And let's not forget that LLMs are still generative in nature, and they can fail without you knowing why. Getting agents into production with confidence requires LLMs to have the right context, the right reliability, and the right guardrails. And with all of that, modern systems today are already quite complicated. One mistake can trigger a cascade of errors and issues. Take a payments API, for example. It's receiving real traffic, and suddenly support flags an issue. Your transactions are failing. You check the logs. You ping your team. No one has a clear answer. And of course, you come to Postman to debug this API, but we can help you do better. You can use synthetic Postman monitors help you catch these problems early. You can configure checks to run on a schedule, verify expected responses, and they can alert you if something breaks. This gives you visibility into how your API is performing outside in, even before a user or integration hits a failure. And it uses the same underlying collections feature through which you build your docs and tests. So they are super easy to set up. But with AI, things get more interesting. Last year at PostCon, we said AI wouldn't just power the interface. It would become the interface, and it's already happening. Across the board, AI has had a major impact on businesses. Industry reports highlight that developers are seeing a 45% increase in coding velocity, largely from cutting out repetitive boilerplate code. Customer support teams have reported a 14% boost in productivity, with agents helping them respond faster and more accurately. And in sales, teams using AI-driven workflows are seeing a 17% higher revenue growth compared to those without. So across the board, agents are turning tasks into automated flows and freeing up humans to focus on higher value tasks. Since the generative AI tsunami started to now, we are now seeing the number of developers who are building with AI on Postman grow 88% year over year. Not only that, there's a lot of diversity in models that developers are building with. Traffic to Meta's Llama models grew 7x, driven by interest in open-weight, fine-tuned models. Google's Gemini traffic grew 5x, reflecting increased adoption of orchestration-ready models by enterprise teams. Even Replicate and Mistral also saw rapid growth on our platform, with traffic doubling and quadrupling respectively, as developers explore more customizable, infrastructure-flexible options. That said, OpenAI still accounts for about 60% of AI-related traffic, but the overall trend is clear. Developers are using a broader mix of models and calling more APIs across the board. So APIs today are being called on by regular applications and now agents. These agents make requests, trigger workflows, and move data, sometimes in new ways that you didn't even think of. In the future, they will operate at scale across systems and often without a human in the loop. With modern systems already being this complex, with agentic AI, they're becoming even harder to observe and manage. With hundreds of thousands of services interacting with each other, it's easy for developers to lose visibility into what's happening, and that's why we have built something new. Today, we are introducing Postman Insights, now in open beta, and we have named this product Insights for a reason. Insights gives you real-time visibility into how your APIs behave in production, and it gives you connectivity to the entire Postman workflow, so you can act on what you see. You just drop in our lightweight utility, and you start seeing traffic patterns immediately in Postman. There are no dashboards to configure, no complex setup, and with Insights, you can track traffic across endpoints, users, and versions, and you can detect failure patterns like 401s and 500s. You can reproduce failures using real user traffic and get alerts when something goes wrong. All right, all of that is great, but it doesn't actually help you solve the problem. And that's where we have built something that, as a developer, I'm personally very excited about, and it's called Repro mode. You can use Insights to reproduce the entire request packet right inside Postman. It shows you the actual payload, headers, and parameters without guesswork or back and forth with your other tools. Everything's right there in Postman. You don't need to copy and paste logs. The failed request is fully preloaded in Postman, and you are ready to debug. What got us even more excited was when our own engineers used Repro mode to unlock critical same-day problems right in production. Now, to protect sensitive information, we automatically redact fields like access token or auth key, and you can also define custom redactions with Insights so sensitive data stays secure. In our open beta, we are starting with a cloud-hosted option, but for enterprise customers, we'll be bringing this capability to your private cloud when we go GA. With Postman Insights and monitors, you get end-to-end visibility across your APIs and ecosystem. You can understand system behavior across all your APIs. You can identify problems as they emerge, and you can debug issues instantly using real user data. OK, some of you might be wondering, how do I play in this agentic era? We believe organizations that build scalable agent workflows will have a meaningful competitive advantage. And how do you turn APIs into intelligent AI-driven workflows? To start, you need to define the agent, what it's responsible for, how it behaves, what data and APIs it can access, and the logic it should follow. With Postman, you now have the tools to design, test, and refine that behavior using the APIs already in your stack. But we heard from customers that they want to build and deploy these agents even faster. Earlier this year, we launched the AI Agent Builder. It's a suite of solutions designed to help you define, test, and deploy agents that can interact with APIs and follow structured workflows. That said, while the AI space is moving fast, a big challenge for LLMs powering actual agents was a simple one. How do you actually call these APIs reliably? If LLMs can't call APIs, your agents can only talk but not do anything. Late last year, new LLM models emerged that are optimized for tool calling. Still, LLMs get confused when they have too many things to do, and they're often prone to hallucinations. And that's where MCP comes in. MCP has emerged as the dominant way for agents to access and interact with the outside world. MCP acts as an abstraction layer for LLMs and can leverage existing APIs. MCP makes it easy for agents to pick from the APIs that they can call instead of imagining an API that doesn't exist. At Postman, we are all in on MCP. First, with Postman, you can turn any public API on the public network into an MCP server. You take a collection or an API request, like the payments API we talked about, and click Generate to build a ready-to-use API tool. Now, that same API can power an agent that can just automatically send a drink in the example that you just saw. And you can integrate this MCP server with Claude, ChatGPT, VS Code, or other MCP clients. It's all backed by the Postman API network that already has over 100,000 APIs. Now, before you build with an LLM API, you need to know if it works for your use case. So we have added support for testing LLMs like OpenAI's ChatGPT and Claude out of the box with the AI request feature. And we have extended Postman's core strength of sending requests, inspecting responses, and debugging APIs to the MCP protocol. MCP is now a first-class request type like HTTP or gRPC. You can, with this feature, paste in a config from Claude or VS Code, auto-load all tools, prompts, and resources, and debug directly inside the workspace you already use. With both of these, you can now explore model behavior the same way you explore APIs. And for development teams continuously evaluating new LLM versions, we have some help too. When you need deeper evaluation across multi-call workflows, like chaining prompts or testing agent behavior, the model comparison template has you covered. It's actually one of the most used assets in our official AI workspace, second only to the OpenAI collections. It lets you run side-by-side comparisons, benchmark key metrics, and make decisions based on evidence and not guesswork. All of it runs inside Postman. The foundation of the AI Agent Builder suite is Flows, our visual builder for multi-step intelligent workflows. Through Flows, you can design and deploy fully functioning workflow agents. Workflow agents help you do repetitive tasks that span multiple APIs or LLMs. Flows connects APIs, tools, and models, define logic, and manage state across steps, all without writing code. It's fast and modular, so anyone on your team can prototype, test, and deploy agents, no backend work required. Flows is powerful for engineers, and at the same time, it's easy to use for non-engineers as well. So like I mentioned earlier, we are deploying workflow agents at Postman across every function and seeing fantastic productivity gains for ourselves. The agents are available as APIs, deployed in one click to run in the cloud. And you can run these agents through webhooks, so they can work while you sleep, and they are even available for other agents to use. OK, so that's everything I wanted to cover today. Actually, there's one more thing. You might be thinking, you've heard about agents that can do so much, but what can they do for me to beat all these bosses even faster? Well, I have just the news for you. I'm proud to announce Agent Mode in Postman. We are bringing the power of agents right alongside everything that you do in Postman. Agent Mode is a conversational agent. It is connected to all the tooling that you can access in Postman, like sending requests, making collections, writing tests, and more. The entire power of the Postman platform is available inside Agent Mode. It is powered by the best-in-class LLMs. And like we said earlier about agents, it doesn't just tell you. It can actually do everything that a user can do in Postman. And those are just the tools available on the Postman platform. Agent Mode will also be extendable with the power of APIs and MCP to everything else in the world. Agent Mode is like having a world-class engineering team available to you for help at all times. All of this is best shown with a demo, and I'd like to bring my colleague, Dustin Shiau, on stage to show you what it looks like.
All right, thanks, Abhinav. So today I'm going to tell you a story that demonstrates 3 ideas, the last of which culminates with the agent mode demo. Abhinav always wants things faster, but I think we got to let this demo breathe a little bit. So this is also a true, fully live, no BS live demo. It's also a demo with AI, so let's send some good vibes to the vibe gods of AI for this demo. But these 3 ideas are, 1, Postman's where teams build high-quality APIs collaboratively. 2, high-quality APIs are a necessary condition of being AI-ready. And 3, AI is now tightly integrated into the Postman product experience, helping teams build quality APIs even more quickly. But that's a lot of things to remember. So here's the TLDR. Life's too short for shady APIs, and shady APIs are blocking your team from being AI-ready. Postman's here to help. For the purposes of this demo, let's say I'm a new engineer on a team that builds products for dog owners. Let's say I am an average, maybe even slightly below average engineer. This is very hard to imagine, I am sure. My job, build features. Features need APIs. Luckily, my team uses Postman. Let me fumble through these requests like a real new hire with a live demo. All right, so this is the dog demo API. I will kind of fumble through, click around here. Of course, this is a world where we're using Postman. If we weren't using Postman, this would be much more cumbersome. I'd be hunting and pecking, going through wikis, asking questions, pinging n number of engineers with n different questions. And here in Postman, we can just use the product, use the API, and see how it works. So we get our first 200 OK. Wonderful. This is just the health check endpoint. Now we can go to, let's do get dog info. We can see it takes a UUID here. It's a Bohemian Shepherd. I don't know what kind of dog that is, but that seems cool. Right? And we'll keep on clicking around. And then now we have this get update subscription. So this is the API that I need to use and invoke and figure out how it works to build my feature. So I go ahead and send it. Great, classic. All right, 405 method not allowed. That's like a fairly descriptive error, thanks HTTP. So I can kind of guess here. So like maybe it's a put. Go ahead and send. No, still no. OK. Maybe it's a post. All right, progress. 422 unprocessable entity. Input should be a valid integer, unable to parse string as an integer. All right, so I don't know if anyone can spot the error. There's a room full of hundreds of smart people here. But there's a quote. So whoever created this copied and pasted from some other doc. So let's go ahead and remove this. Go ahead and send. Huzzah, 200 OK, right? So now we have an API that works. This is the virtuous loop that teams using Postman get into. Now that next engineer who comes to this collection tries to do the exact same flow I do, they'll get a 200 OK. So again, we saw in Justine's keynote, and Abhinav mentioned this as well, we have this workspace updates feature. It's like, how do I let my team know that this actually works? We'll write a really quick one here, interest of time, fixed API, trust me, it works. And then this will automatically cross-post to Slack. All right. Demo 1 is completed. All right. All right, so in this next portion of the demo, this is where we start talking about how high-quality APIs are the necessary condition for being AI-ready. So suffice to say, if you haven't heard of MCP yet, you are not as terminally online as I am. Oh, wait. I'm an average engineer in this demo. OK, so I read a blog post once, and now I know everything about MCP. And it's kind of like the USB-C of AI. And it helps my API provide superpowers to large language models with real-time data, system and resource access, and so forth. Neat. It's kind of like the API to AIs. So this is the MCP generator. This is, of course, building upon the power of the public API network. So as Justine mentioned, over 100,000 APIs, many of which are owned, published, by the authoritative publishers, many of who are in this room. So I was able to chat with a couple of you. Thank you for truly making the world better with these high-quality APIs. So this is the MCP generator. This helps you in just a couple clicks build a high-quality MCP server built upon these high-quality APIs. So we'll do the exact same flow that I demonstrated earlier. We'll do get dog info, download dog photo, and the health check. This will generate an MCP boilerplate project in Node.js with support for the 2 major transports of MCP, which is stdio and then SSE if you would like to host it or use it remotely. We'll go ahead and download the zip file. And we'll bop over to our terminal. All right, so we have this Postman MCP server. And we'll change into this directory. We will install dependencies. And now we will run this locally. So this spins up an SSE server at port 3001. And now we'll go back to the client that you all are familiar with. So in the same way that building, testing, and debugging these HTTP APIs, you can now do the same with an MCP request. So the team that built all the other types of requests that we offer, so GraphQL, gRPC, HTTP, MQTT, the list goes on and on, also built the MCP request. So it has the same look and feel, the same great developer experience that you're used to. We'll go ahead and connect. And we see here, this is really the base building block of what makes an MCP powerful. It's a tool that exposes a well-defined typed API so that an AI, basically an LLM, can say, hey, what tools are available? Hey, how do they work? What do I pass to them? And how can I do work? This is the central body of work that makes an MCP such a powerful technique. So we'll go ahead and run this. Health check works. Let's go ahead and look at the get dog info tool. I will steal this ID. Variables and other niceties just work in this as well. So we can use a variable, go ahead and enter it, run it, and then we see our dog. That's a bloodhound. Interesting. Another cool kind of dog, right? So the idea here is that when you have high-quality APIs, when you test them and validate that they work with the MCP server, this gives you more confidence that when an LLM invokes this MCP server, it's going to work as you expect. More successful API invocations is good for the user, but it's also good for your business. All right. So at this point, we've built and tested a high-quality API, made it AI-ready with an MCP server, and verified everything works. But everything I showed in building APIs is still work, cumbersome work. You have to hunt down bugs, write tests, share updates, and do all the small things that slow you down. Well, it doesn't have to be this way. Now, we can do the agent mode. So as Abhinav indicated, in this one more thing moment, we call it agent mode. It's not a chatbot, it's not a co-pilot, it's a full-blown teammate. A teammate that doesn't just talk about your API, it builds it with you. Agent mode understands your requests, reproduces errors, fixes them, adds tests, updates your workspace, and all through the Postman UI without having to use the API with a prompt-like interface. So real quick, I will reset my demo state to the previous state so that we can do it again with agent mode. All right, so we go here again. We see this get update subscription. We'll go ahead and send it. Fails expectedly. Good. All right, so now this is agent mode. And so what we can do, can you help me get this API successful? Here's where a prayer to the AI gods would be appreciated. All right, I'll help you troubleshoot the API requests. HP method might be incorrect. And so it gave me a couple theories. So it said, it seems like it's the wrong request type. Why don't you try this? I'll modify the request to use the post method. I'll keep the existing body and update the method. So right now it's modifying my UI to switch to the post method. Specific user ID, it looks like it has the next step here. So I'll give it the user ID. And you can see it's like guiding me through the next step of the journey. I'll update the request with the user ID that you provided. Now I'll send the request to see the response. All right, 200 OK. Huzzah, right? So we've been using agent mode at Postman, and we have a collection with tricky failing APIs. It took us, as a team of 100 of the best engineers on the planet, over 10 minutes to get to a 200 OK with that tricky API. With agent mode, it took us 5 seconds. So if you do the math there, maybe you're better at math than I am. That's not 2x faster. That's not 10x faster. That's 120x faster, right? So if you want to try it, come find us at the booth. We'll show you agent mode, talk APIs, AI, or just trade debugging stories. And now let's find out why my I totally built a high-quality AI-ready API claim might have been a little naive. Here's my teammate, Gene, to show why I'm still just an average engineer at heart. Take it home, Gene.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jean, and now I'm going to talk about how production is the last missing piece to making debugging even faster with Postman. All right, I'll start my demo now. Thank you. All right, so many of you in the room have probably been in the spot where you're working on an API and you just can't get to a 200 OK. Something you might be wondering at this point is this happening to everybody else? Is no one able to see their dog feed, or is it just me? And so now you can go over to agent mode, and I can say, tell me more, typing on stage, tell me more details about the errors associated with this endpoint. Cool, spelling. All right, so what I'm hoping will happen now is that agent mode will go off and tell me more about the production errors associated with this endpoint. So then I can tell if it's me or if all the users are blocked from getting the feed. Cool. So you heard about the new Postman Insights launch from Abhinav, and what we're seeing here, well, not that cool because people are being barred from seeing dogs, but what we're seeing here is that in production, users are getting 500 errors, and in fact, if we look at the last hour, we have a 100% error rate. So we've somehow uncovered a bug right now in our debugging, and something we can do is look at real requests in production to this endpoint, the feed endpoint, and we can check that they're getting the same DB connection EOF error that we're getting. Okay, let's check some other ones and see if this is still the same. Yep, looks like this is happening all over. So this is maybe a network issue, or maybe the database has crashed. So as a good engineer would do, what we can do is go and actually rerun the original request on real user data to make sure this is still what's happening. We're still getting this 500 internal server error, and yep, it is. So it looks like, it wasn't just me getting those 500s. All the users are also getting these 500s. So I know my team is out there somewhere. Hey, guys, no one's seeing the dogs. Can you please fail over the database or maybe increase the memory? And then we'll be good to go again. So as you can probably tell, that'll take longer than the 1 minute I have left of this demo. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some other parts of Insights. So what you saw here was the error details page. And so this is for the feed endpoint. It's showing a live graph of everything that the endpoint has seen. You can explore that. If you weren't able to find the bug here, what you could do is go back to the error overview endpoint, which let's go ahead and say last 12 hours here to show you just a few more errors. So you can see this is the period where the feed endpoint was erroring out. But this errors overview page gives you automatic comprehensive coverage across all of your API endpoints simply by installing Insights alongside your containers. So there are AI algorithms that do automated API discovery, and so it's a no SDK, no API specs necessary kind of situation. Just let Insights watch your API traffic. So Insights watches everything just by sitting in your containers so you can get an overall view of your system health. And we also understand that many of your organizations are not just one service, but many teams, many projects. So this is just a quick view of our global Insights page where our entire Postman company has rolled up all of the errors into this. So you can start to imagine what agent mode can do when you have access to all of this. And people have also told me, Jean, we don't want to be looking at dashboards all the time, so I have good news for people like that. So you can set up alerts And you can imagine these are pretty straightforward. You just set them up easily across all of your endpoints. You say whenever the error rate is high or the count is above a certain amount, and you can get alerted whenever there are issues on your API endpoints. So this has helped our team and other teams a lot because you just don't have that comprehensive coverage all the time with your other tools. So we just launched an open beta. We have a demo table way at the end, and we would love to have you try us out.
All right, that was a fantastic demo. Thank you, Dustin and Jean. Thank you to the AI gods as well for answering our prayers. OK, that's it, folks. You can check out Agent Mode at our booths today. Sign up for the waitlist, and we'll get you access as we start rolling it out more broadly. We can't wait to see what you build with it. So to wrap up, in this presentation, we talked about how to design APIs faster with less friction, fewer handoffs, and better collaboration, how to get your APIs out there with built-in visibility, adoption, and governance, and how to connect your APIs into intelligent workflows that are built for humans and ready for agents.